Conducting a PDRI is almost always most effective with an expert facilitator trained in using PDRI. The facilitator needs to be unbiased and, most importantly, not associated with the team, with the project team. We have the best results with a third-party facilitator, in fact. In Jerry's case, he had the added complexity of ensuring that the facilitator he brought in wasn't actually perceived to be the bad cop from corporate Houston overlooking the projects that were going on in Calgary. And the other key consideration was to ensure that the facilitator is highly observant and can spot and handle issues during the session that can include things like, was the team actually emotionally attached to the project? In the case where a lot of design work had been done, actually more design work than should have been done, they actually might lose sight of what is best for the business. And sometimes when there's an elephant in the room during the session that needs further discussion, for instance, if there are team dynamics that need to be addressed for the health of the project. We can also help the team avoid premature conclusions and stay on task and understand the importance of project scope definition and understanding the risks to the project of not having adequately defined scope and the right scope at the right time. If you do find yourself in a situation like Jerry's and need the help of a neutral third-party facilitator, Valency does provide this service. Our team of 5 certified facilitators have capital project backgrounds in oil and gas, pipelines, mining, chemicals, refining, power, and commercial buildings. Jerry was able to use PDRI to make tremendous progress with his team and ensure alignment of project objectives and stakeholder needs. Projects are difficult organizations in which to deliver alignment, and PDRI is one of the few industry-validated tools which can help you achieve alignment in as little commitment as a half-a-day session. What makes PDRI so unique and powerful from other assessment services available today is the collaborative approach, where the team works together to 4 elements around a table. Those discussions help establish mutuality. And when the group comes together, it makes everyone more a part of the process and develops those mutual outcomes that are so integral to project success. I'll now pass the mic to Sandra.
Thank you, Dawn. So let's do a bit of a recap on some of the strategies that we've gone through here. Jerry and Dawn, we saw take full advantage of an existing investment that Houston had made in PDRI. By finding a portfolio of similar complexity and similar stage projects, they were able to use those benchmarks of a more mature portfolio to support their discussion. It helped them in going through to understand why this oil sands project was scoring so much lower than most projects at FEP2. It helped them to highlight how far along the team was on some of the design categories, given their stage of planning. And it also helped to draw attention to project design criteria, which was scoring above Houston's portfolio average. By using portfolio benchmarks from within the same company and working down to the section and the category and the element level, Jerry ended up with valuable feedback for his business unit. In the past, a discussion with Jerry's VP on the results of the PDRI would probably have been a verbal one, but using CARB to support their discussion, Jerry's VP was able to easily connect with their project findings. We used the visual representation to quickly help him understand the risk areas, and they benefited from both internal portfolio benchmarks and industry benchmarks to put his results into context. A few weeks later, Jerry and his VP had a follow-up discussion on what else could be done with PDRI data if they introduced the toolset into their business unit. Jerry picked a few good examples of how he'd come to rely on PDRI as a leading indicator of project performance. The first one he shared was around risk management. He explained how his Houston team was using the low definition elements at the end of PDRI 3 to help build their risk plan as they headed into FEED. That helped both the company's project managers and the EPC in getting started. He also explained as a second point that the company had decided on not authorizing projects in the Houston business unit unless they'd reached a score up below 200. But at the same time, the project services group in Houston was using that same PDRI benchmark data to better correlate the amount of contingency that should be allocated for projects using the PDRI score, and in some cases even specific elements with scope deficiencies. About 2 years ago, they had made PDRI a mandatory stage gate at the end of concept and detailed scope gates. And when they made that an integral part of their project approval process, they saw a noticeable improvement in performance in just under 12 months. And the final one that he shared with his VP was how the project services group in Houston was now doing quarterly reviews to identify trends in their planning process that warranted some further investigation. They had a pretty high turnover in their project organization, and the team that you worked with today could be very different than the team you worked with 12 months ago. And Jerry explained how the project services group had helped him quickly spot training needs in his teams just based on the PDRI trends, and he never would have caught them otherwise when they're all running so hard. So as we do a bit of a recap here on the 3 strategies to increase PDRI strategic value in your organization. The first one is that if you've been using PDRI for even a short period of time, you've got some tremendously valuable data at your fingertips. Using CARV, you can leverage this data and start to establish your own benchmarks to help other business units across your organization that are learning how to use PDRI to its fullest potential. The second point is that CARV extracts that valuable data from PDRI and helps you present it in a visual manner that makes it easy for the senior executives and the project engineers alike to connect with the results. And finally, PDRI is an industry-validated indicator of project performance, and CARV will help you establish a single system of record that promotes consistency in how those leading indicators are used with every project manager in your organization. So if we've intrigued you on what might be possible to increase the strategic value of PDRI in your organization, I'd encourage you to go to our website and to register for a free trial of CARV. It's simple to use and will have you up and running in less than 30 minutes. And I can guarantee you'll start to see trends in your PDRI data that you'd never even considered before.
So from Mike, what is the pricing structure to use the product, and are there various options? Sandra, would you like to take that one?
Sure. So the approach that we've taken for pricing CARV is really tied to the number of assessments that you're doing each year and the size of the portfolio that you're working with. We want to make it easy for organizations that are starting up to be able to put CARV in a very price-effective manner and be able to make it add value as quickly as we can. So if you're interested in specific pricing details, I just encourage you to reach out to myself at Sandra, the emails from the session, and be happy to walk through in more detail.
Great, Sandra, thanks. So from Camilo Reyes, is the PDRI conducted using the normal Excel spreadsheet and then the results transferred to CARV? Would you like to take that one, Sandra?
Sure. So yeah, we support all of the 3 PDRI tools that CII's released. So there's the buildings, the industrial, and the infrastructure. So we have the current version and the last version that came out in kind of a 2009 timeframe. Well, the intent is that you still use the spreadsheet to collect your data, and then as soon as you're done, you go through an import process. It takes about 15 seconds, and then you have your data there, and you can finish off the report with your executive summary and any of the action items that you want to add. So yeah, intended that you still use the same Excel spreadsheets to import.
From Mike, would you consider using CARV for other CII products, such as the BPPII, which I think is BIP, Sandra, isn't it?
Yep.
Any thoughts on the time frame required to integrate a new tool into CARV? From Mike D. So we absolutely would consider using other CII products. What is great about them is that they are structured with elements that roll up into categories frequently, that roll up into sections, and that fits very well with how the CARV tool has been architected and structured. Did you want to add to that in any way, Sandra?
I think, kind of the spirit of what we're building here at Valency is we very much want to focus on project readiness tools that'll add value as you go through the various phases of your project. And the BIP one that was rolled out last year, very valuable tool as you start to get into construction phase that I think would complement this really well over the longer term.
I would like to see how you assess the different types of projects when you are doing your benchmarking. I believe comparing an oil sand project with an LNG project could lead to a misleading conclusion. I can take that, Sandra, if you like. Sandra?
Yep.
Okay. Yeah, sure. Absolutely. It absolutely would be misleading. In the case of the PDRI itself as a methodology, we have industrial projects, we have a PDRI, we have an infrastructure PDRI and a building PDRI. In the case of an LNG, you could have an industrial LNG project and an oil sand project, absolutely. So that's why we've structured CARV so that you can create your own portfolios to align with your own business requirements. In this particular case, it was a case where the oil sands project had nothing with which to compare and build that compelling comparison and benchmarking for the VP in question. To have it exist as a siloed score wasn't extremely valuable. So it was just really as a strategic way that Jerry could adapt the tool and build a business case for the tool. But absolutely, you wouldn't want to compare an LNG project with an oil sand project. So to answer the question, just in summary, you would create a portfolio specifically for LNG industrial, and you would create a portfolio specifically for oil sands, and they would not be compared in the industry averages that you saw earlier. They would have their own averages. Are you a CII educational provider, or do you intend to be? May have missed that in the introduction. Yes, we're proud to say that in January of this year, was it January, Sandra, or December?
Yep.
Yeah. January of this year, we did become a CII education provider, and we are the only one currently in our region that specializes in front-end planning. Thanks for the question. So if that's all for the questions from the group, I think Sandra has a few slides that address some frequently asked questions.
Yeah, just a quick one here. I often get asked is, do we have to install any software? It is a cloud-based application, so all you have to have is your browser, and we have a number of supported browsers to make it easy regardless of the platform you're on. Often get asked about data security. Our application is hosted in the Amazon Secure Data Center. All of our data is encrypted, and every organization has a private setup to secure your data. And the big one, or our elephant in the room, will I have to involve IT? And the answer on this one is sometimes. It really depends. If your IT department has a policy of whitelisting websites, you may need to put in a request to have our site whitelisted, but pretty short set of steps to do that. Okay, on behalf of Dawn and myself and the entire Valency team, I'd like to thank you for participating today. We will be following up with each of you over the next week to get your feedback on today's presentation and also to share the recorded version. Again, if we've intrigued you on what's possible to increase the strategic value of PDRI in your organization, I'd encourage you to register for a free trial of CARV. And thank you very much for your participation. And this concludes today's webinar.
I appreciate all who've joined. Thank you for your time today, and have a great day or a great evening, wherever geography you find yourself.